Welcome to the Michelin Guide Perspective and Predictions episode, the long-awaited episode. Today I will do a deep dive into the world of the Michelin Guide, specifically when it comes to Florida and the upcoming ceremony on April 17th in Orlando, Florida. As I see it. Thank you so much for trusting me year after year and for your support. If you're new around here, hello, my name is Brenda and I am the owner and editor of The Wet Palette, writer for the blog, host of this podcast, and creator to all corresponding social media accounts, which is a lot. Who am I exactly? Well, the short answer is I am a Michelin and Miami dining enthusiast. My perspective comes from the many Michelin restaurants I have dined in the US and abroad. Spoiler alert, that totals now 317 stars, and that's a whole lot of miles and calories. That count includes 11 of the 14 US 3-starred locations. It does not make me an expert, but I do have a lot of perspective when it comes to comparing other cities to Miami. I use the Michelin Guide as just that, a guide, and so should you. People take it way too serious. It's a great starting point when planning a gastronomic trip. I enjoy the journey, even when disagreeing sometimes with the guide selections. It happens more often than not. Following the guide has led me to exceptional meals of a lifetime that were worth that special journey. And forgive my notes for those of you watching. I have 31 pages of things I need to discuss. Before diving in, I want to provide more history for those who are new to the Michelin Guide and to the Wet Palette. Since 2014, way before launching this podcast, I closely always looked at the city's potential if we were to ever have a guide. And every couple of years, I wrote an article about the Michelin Guide Miami and studied our potential for one. I always had faith it would happen in Miami. So I was not surprised at all when it was confirmed that it would launch here. And you can find all of those articles on my website, thewetpalette.com. If you want more Michelin coverage in podcast form, episodes 3, 13, 26, 29, 44, and 45 will offer more detailed, deep, geeky dives into this topic. There you will find more scoop into the Michelin Guide facts and tidbits you might not know and that I will not be covering again today. The episode's already long as it is, or it's going to be long. I have covered all 3 Florida ceremonies so far, 22, 23, and 24. This year, the Michelin Guide heads to Orlando on April 17th. It seems to be a complicated and unpredictable year. For one, as I predicted before, this will be the first year that the guide includes Fort Lauderdale, St. Pete, and Palm Beach. Next year, the Michelin Guide has also announced that it will finally do the entire state of Florida. That should be fun. Some disclaimers before I begin. It should be apparent I keep it very real. Sometimes that means I'm not the most PC person. Owning a blog for the past 12 years and this podcast in its 4th season, which is all about my dining experiences, chosen and paid for by me, means I can steer my content as I please without owing anyone anything. Freedom to just be. It's refreshing. Although I analyze the Michelin Guide and their choices, I am not affiliated with them in any way. I also do not have all the answers. Other than quotes I will share directly from the Michelin Guide website and facts, I have researched everything I will discuss is my opinion based on my experience dining at Michelin-starred restaurants throughout the US and Europe. The last thing is this. Just because I say a place doesn't or shouldn't have a star or should be listed in the guide doesn't mean I don't like the restaurant. It simply means what I said, that I don't think it should be in the guide anymore, or there's probably a reason for that. Maybe I don't think it fits the category any longer, for example, or it has lost its spark. It happens. It might be that the place it's something I still love, but for Michelin purposes, it might not be a suitable fit any longer. There's no vendetta or hidden reason behind any of it. Okay, I don't have time for that. I am pretty transparent when it comes to my opinions. I always have been, love it or hate it. This is me. This is why it's important that I pay my bill when I try a new restaurant and not become influenced otherwise to go off the hype of a media dine, for example. Okay, let's begin. The ratings explained. Can't start without understanding what the ratings are. The Michelin Guide states restaurants may receive 0 to 3 stars for the quality of the food based on quality of the ingredients used, mastery of the flavor and cooking techniques, the personality of the chef in his cuisine, value for money, and consistency between visits. Keyword, consistency. 1 star is a very good restaurant in its category. This in particular is important to note for this episode, and I always talk about this. The US and Europe vary greatly when it comes to what 1 star looks like. And as I say every year, the US 1 stars are the wild, wild west and anything goes. It's primarily different in Europe. But the phrase in its category is all we need to know. It would help if Michelin would disclose what categories those are, but they don't. However, in Miami, for example, Boyardee and Tambourine Room are not in the same category, but they both have a star. In Michelin's terms, they combine many different types of restaurants and award them within their mysterious categories. Sometimes, something else that is important to note is that even within each star, there's much wiggle room, so there's space to move. It's invisible, but some are at the bottom of that star, with a few that are almost straddling the line between a 1 star and a 2, yet at the end of the day, they are both the 1 star. So remember, within its category, it's that little key phrase that they add. 2 stars, excellent cooking and worth a detour. 3 stars, exceptional cuisine, worth a special journey. A Bib Gourmand is great quality cooking at a great price. And that price used to be, I think, specified at like $49, I think, and it hasn't really been updated that I know of, and I don't really think they discussed that. The 2s and 3s in the U.S. are very uniform in style. You can almost chart out the similarities, which is interesting, right? I think it's because of that a lot of chefs try to imitate what they think inspectors want, and they mold their restaurants after those patterns. Sometimes I have to say that it works, and sometimes it does not. The Michelin Guide also gives out some special awards. We do have some of these in Florida, but not all of them yet. The Green Star restaurants identify restaurants at the forefront of the industry when it comes to their practices regarding sustainable gastronomy, which they awarded to Los Felix and Cruz last ceremony, but not Stubborn Seed, which is Ford's Farm, and not Ghee, which is Rancho Patel, for some reason, and I will talk about that again in a little bit. Also, Chef Mentor, Young Chef, Service Award, Sommelier Award, Exceptional Cocktail, and Pastry Chef Award. We might see some of those this year finally. So let's start with basic questions based on the current list. Do I think Michelin will rank anyone up? No. Should they? Yes. Considering that this is the Florida guide within that U.S. bubble that I discussed, I went through the list of the 31 bibs to see if any could or should be bumped up to 1 star. Based on that, a lot of these won't come as a surprise if you have been following me for a while, but Zitsum would be a great candidate to move up from a bib to a star. I can't think of a restaurant that has been working any harder pre, during, and post Michelin Guide. It's more about just being the guide at Zits. It's just what they do. They always keep moving and innovating. And in Michelin's own words about Zitsum, from their online point of view, they say, the cooking is original and gutsy and makes delicious sense. Well, then it makes sense to move them up, doesn't it? I also said this before, but I would still bump up Brasserie Laurel, who is currently recommended. These are all recommended. Lamar and Fiola from recommended to 1 star from the list of the Michelin recommended restaurants without a star or a bib. It does not make sense to me that those restaurants are just recommended. These all have successful tasting menus. They have worked tirelessly and consistently to provide beautiful experiences overall. Lamar even debuted Amano by Oka, which is the new tasting menu experience there. Food that is memorable and well executed. They have also been consistent for years in Miami. Years. And in Miami math, if you don't know, 1 year equals at least 3 regular years. They are all well thought out and executed concepts with cool vibes, excellent service, and delicious food, distinguished for sure. I would also rank up Macchialina to a bib. Right now, they remain in limbo on the recommended list of what Michelin now calls good cooking under the bib. But somehow Lucali does qualify as a bib, but Macchialina doesn't. Not sure I understand that one, and this is where a lot of criticism comes in, not just me. It's something I hear all the time. Ranking from 1 to a 2 or 2 to a 3. Will Michelin rank a restaurant from 1 to a 2? Maybe. Should they? Yes. Maybe. My answer on this changed this year. Why? Remember when I talked about stars having some sort of an invisible wiggle room earlier? I actually think Ogawa is currently straddling the line between 1 and 2. Is it too soon to upgrade them? Perhaps, but they are headed in that direction for sure. So is the new addition Omo, which I will discuss in a bit. That's it though, just those two. So I think Ogawa is headed that way. I don't know if they might want to upgrade them this year as well with Omo, or if they might just want to do Omo and finally introduce a new 2-star to our list. What have I found common in the US 2 stars that we lack in South Florida, although it is improving greatly? Service. Although the Michelin guide states that they only rate the food, the pattern exists. Sorry, not sorry, it's there. There's no casual service at a 2 or 3 star ever. The restaurant can be casual, but the service always remains proper. Not formal, but proper and highly performative. You can never see the staff sweat. It's almost like an acting class. They always keep character. They always communicate with each other as a team using hand signals, head nods, and tricks so that the guests usually never hear the things that are being said. Someone is cold, oops, a pashmina just magically appears. You want sparkling water? How did the person pouring appear within seconds and know to pour without hearing it? The magic of service. Also, most restaurants research who is dining and keep notes for guests when they return. And those are some of the similarities. Of course, there are exceptions like Momofuku Co. in New York, which closed a couple of years ago, by the way. They were casual overall in all aspects, but held on to a 2 stars for a very long time. But I am discussing the similarities of the 2s I have experienced. And because of that, I don't see anyone else in Miami moving up to a 2, and certainly not a 3. We don't have a candidate for a 3 yet. Robuchon, L'Atelier, Robuchon is our only 2-star right now, and I don't foresee them being moved up to a 3. They have been consistent with every one of my visits, except maybe one time. I've been a lot. So there's that, but they're not likely to go up to a 3, but they're not like any 3 in the U.S. I love them, but I don't see them moving up. I see all of the current ones keeping their stars. Ariete, Stubborn Seed, Cote, Shingo, Entre Nos, Tambourine, and the Surf Club. Do I think any restaurant will lose a star? No. Do I think any restaurant should lose a star? Yes, maybe, perhaps. I want to point out specifically, especially this year, again, that just because I say a restaurant could or should be downgraded, it doesn't mean I despise them or I don't like their food. There's also a difference between what I think will happen and what I think should happen. I had the blessing of experiencing 1 and 3 stars in Italy and Spain recently, and while the ones there could easily be United States 2s. When I'm discussing restaurants here, I'm thinking of an established pattern set forth by the Michelin Guide in the U.S., specifically in Miami, whether they know that they're doing a pattern or not. They probably do. But not Milan, not San Sebastian. You just cannot deny the pattern. There's a pattern. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. And regardless of what is said, it just does not compare to Europe. I know they aim to, but Miami right now does not compare to Europe. Now that there are more restaurants listed and we are going into the 4th season, I would not be surprised if some restaurants are downgraded to recommended. But I don't really think Michelin will drop any of them. One of the biggest criticisms of the guide that I hear all the time is just how all over the place they are. In the past, you never saw ultra casual establishments in the 1-star category. I have failed to find any in Spain and Italy so far. And I already said how some of the Europe ones could easily be 2 stars in the US. So it is what it is. When you consider that, 1, the guide has made it a point to add even barbecue spots in Texas and a taco stand in Mexico as a star, then you know anything goes. But 2, I also remember the phrase I mentioned earlier. in its category, right? So I suppose the taco stand is in its category, and so are the barbecue joints. Boyardee, Le Jardiniere, and Los Felix, and probably El Cielo seem to stand out to me and many as the current most controversial restaurants on the list. For the most part, I think the rest are well accepted as 1 stars, but those are the ones that always come up in conversation. I have talked about Los Felix plenty before. For starters, last year, the Michelin Guide tripled down on Los Felix by awarding them a green star, and have spoken to part of the team there. And I'd have to say I appreciate their candor and willingness to speak to me after I have been harsh on them in the past when referring to the star. They do seem to be super dedicated to the restaurants, the way they source, and special attention to what is on the plate. I don't think the food is terrible at all. I just don't think it's priced accordingly and at the level that I perceive to be Michelin level. Everything with them is about the amount of and variety of corn sourced. It seems like that one part of their operation is particularly impressive to Michelin. The guide finally updated their description of them, citing, "Anyone can throw together a fish taco, but few are willing to source grouper from Key West." That's a lot to unpack. Miami has come a long way. We have many restaurants sourcing local seafood and preparing it creatively. Also, Los Felix has never said that they're a Mexican restaurant, which is how the guide has categorized them. I mean, I understand if you're them, not arguing the point with the guide, just let it be. But interestingly enough, they are more than that, given their very global approach and inspiration. Mexican inspired, sure, but not Mexican. For Boyardee, it's a tough one for me to judge. I do love the food there, but as much as I still go and will still go, I feel like it has been coasting for a bit. And going off that initial excitement of when it opened, Miami also just has so many options nowadays. I do feel like it does not stand out as much as it once did. And that's hard for me to say. In the past, I have talked about removing El Cielo after a mediocre experience I had in 2018. I haven't made my way back to El Cielo yet. I just can't bring myself to paying that much on a place I didn't love the first time. It's a tough pill to swallow to go see if they improved. I am still waiting to receive favorable feedback from anyone visiting, so I remain discouraged from returning. So if you're that diner who has gone and loved it, let me know. All I see is hype videos of guests washing their hands with chocolate, which I did. I don't care to do it again. And I have nothing to go on. I don't want to dish out $600 for that experiment again. And again, to wash my hands with chocolate. Le Jardiniere is one whose food I do enjoy, but I feel like they haven't been consistent for a while with a lot of kitchen changes, and the menu is very limited. Michelin's new additions. This one should be interesting, so let's discuss. You have Kojin, Recoveco, Sunny's, Vice Versa, Soraya, Torno Subito, Cotoa, Itamae, Ao, Palma, and Grand Central. First, the facts. Of last year's 8 additions, 3 got stars: Shingo, Ogawa, and Entre Nos. Of the 8 additions in 2023, 1 got a star, which was Tambourine Room. This year, as of this recording, there are 10 new additions. They have not yet posted a teaser addition list for Broward, Palm Beach, and St. Pete. If they do, I might post a written addendum on my blog of my thoughts because I can't go back to record this. So how will that translate this year? I would venture to say that given so many other cities that are being added and honored, this should be a year of low stars for Miami, but we do have 3 strong contenders: Itamae, Kojin, and Recoveco. And I'm not just saying that because I love them. I mean, I actually love all the additions on the list except Torno Subito. More on that in a sec. The only thing holding me back from being 100% certain that they will get a star, that they would get a star, is that they haven't been open for that long to be considered consistent, which is usually a big quality Michelin goes for, as they should. If anything, Itamae has been open longer and delivering their menu on a pretty steady rhythm, while Kojin, although a 2.0 version, is starting from scratch in a way, since it's a new location, new significantly larger kitchen, and new menu items. That said, the pattern here with Michelin is wild. They have given stars to places that have been open for mere months before, like Entre Nos, which was and still is a pop-up. And all 3 of these are homegrown concepts like Entre Nos, and that is something they do have going for them. Recoveco is another I would love to see recognized. The team is a breath of fresh air, delivering modern and elegant food, not holding to any style in particular and on purpose. They truly are basing it on what's seasonal. But Chefs Tere and Nico's precision in everything they do is incredible to watch. The plate might look simple, plated in the neatest way possible, not a grain or an ounce out of place. Then you take a bite and wonder how the hell they pack so much flavor into that single bite. Absolutely smitten with Recoveco, obviously. So we shall see. These are not in the bib pricing, which is also kind of a blur. It used to be, like I said, around $49, but I'm not sure what that is nowadays. Still, a bib is supposed to be great quality cooking at a great price, and these three are not in that bib range at all. Palma from the beginning reminded me a lot of Entre Nos. I have visited 3 times and loved each one. For a star, I'm a little torn. Do I love it? Yes, as I said, but have always said that I thought from tasting the food that I could tell there's great skill has gone into each dish and his palate is there, but I do feel like Chef Juan Camilo is holding back for some reason. And I get it. Miami is a tough animal and tasting menus can be intimidating for some diners. I feel like he can showcase more creative dishes. I mean, maybe I just want more of his food too. The portions are on the smaller side, which never bothers me. That's pretty typical of tasting menus, but all of that combined, I always leave feeling like he has more to give. A couple of others on the addition list, not on the bib category, are Torno Subito and Soraya. Now, I often talk about the Michelin Guide lineage and how some restaurants I feel are fast-tracked to a star if the chef has worked in a kitchen that has earned a star before. And that's certainly true of Los Felix, Entre Nos, and even Boyade. Both Torno and Soraya fall into that category that I have come up with. Torno is Massimo Bottura's more casual concept, one of them anyway. I don't think it's worth a star. Will the Michelin Guide honor it the same they did in Dubai? Should they? I'm really against it. I think the restaurant was all over the place when I went, menu-wise. Nothing was memorable to me. So a star there just goes to one of those Michelin lineage thing that does seem to matter to the guide. So I guess we shall see. Soraya is a little more complex to crack, while Chef Enrique Sapessoa has a couple of stars in Spain. His team is led here by local Miguel Massens, who has a rich background also working in starred kitchens, talking giants like the French Laundry. So they know what they're doing there. Every dinner there has been exceptional for me when it comes down to consistency. Again, every experience there has been different. Every dinner there has been exceptional. So for me, it comes down to consistency again. Every experience there has been different, each one better than the last, but it hasn't been steady yet. And that holds me back. I see it as Michelin rewarding the smaller homegrown concepts over the large operations. Can they? Yes. Will they? I'm not sure of it. Grand Central, this one just mysteriously closed, which is unfortunately. It's a tiny place I think would have benefited from just being recognized and included in the guide. I'm not sure what is going on there, and I hope they can make it back. Cotoa, I absolutely loved when I went. The food, Ecuadorian, is bright, colorful, beautiful, and delicious. But they're located in a food stall, and this is a strong bib contender, I think. Then we have Sunny's and vice versa. 2 incredible spots. I will go on a weekly basis if I could. I don't think these are in the star category at all, so possibly recommendations, and vice versa with a possible bib because of pricing. Then we have Omo by Jônt, which is in Orlando, but I need to talk about it because I think it should be the next 2-star in Florida, 2 stars, next to Miami's existing Robuchon. Jônt has 2 stars in DC, but really on the verge of 3. Again, that wiggle room. And essentially, it's the same restaurant, but in Orlando. Omo is Florida's best tasting menu as far as I'm concerned right now. Hands down, no questions asked. They host only 16 diners nightly. Dinners last almost 4 hours and takes place within 3 gorgeous spaces. Guests are welcome to a living room where they enjoy snacks and opening sips. Then they visit the main dining room counter overlooking the kitchen. The food is deeply inspired by Japanese cuisine with global touches by a team that joyfully colors outside the lines and bends the rules in the very best ways. The playlist is an unexpected fun mix of classic hip-hop beats, Dinner ends in the pastry parlor to indulge in a selection of decadent desserts. Service remains professional and the attention to detail is impeccable. Both Omo and Jônt are by the same hospitality group that also brings us Mas in Fort Lauderdale, which is the only restaurant I see getting a star there. And we haven't discussed the other counties yet, but I will shortly. Omo just even made the finals list yesterday as the best new restaurant for the James Beard Awards. The sentiment across the board is that these two are crystal clear frontrunners, Omo and Mas. One glaring omission to the additions is Elastica. Shocked, actually. Elastica is an opening I have been super excited about. Chef Joe Anthony grew up in South Florida. He spent the last 15 years in New York City working at Daniel, the Modern, and Gabriel Cruther. No big deal. Anthony and his sous chefs have functional nutrition certifications. The menu is kept as clean as possible while keeping it interesting and creative. The flours and the overall ingredients used are meant to be anti-inflammatory, easily digested, and good for you. The breads are homemade with organic einkorn flour and heirloom grain with lower levels of gluten. Also, there are no heavy grains or GMOs used. But again, his cooking is elevated and the experience at the gorgeous location is incredible. I'm not sure what happened there and why it was skipped, but they are so deserving and are bringing something very different to South Florida. And we still have a little bit left. Maybe they'll be added. I don't know. Fort Lauderdale. As I started to explain, Mas is similar to Omo when it comes to the chef's counter, but it's still in a hotel, so they offer table service a la carte, making it a larger operation. It would not make sense to reward Mas and Omo with 1 star because they're not the same. Again, that wiggle room. But the Omo experience offers more, and given that Jônt has 2 stars in DC, Omo should 100% be the next 2 in Florida, and then Mas at a 1. I'm not holding my breath for many other restaurants in Fort Lauderdale to get a star. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. The longtime staples there are okay, but don't think qualify as stars. This might be a story of a lot of recommended and bibs for Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach. There are rumors of Daniel's, Evelyn's, and Heritage in Fort Lauderdale. Certainly restaurants even I would recommend, but not places that scream star to me. Daniel's is by Chef Daniel Gannum of Fiola, who happens to be very experienced in Michelin kitchens. The menu has plenty of elevated courses like the foie gras creme brulee appetizer that I love. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful Florida-centric restaurant focusing on sourcing from the Florida Keys and all the way up to North Florida for their steak, for their cattle. This could be even a green star at some point. Does Michelin award stars to steakhouses? I'm not sure about that. And if any of them would have one, this would have a strong chance. Will there be a wild card here? The guide does love to throw some curveballs that keep us all arguing over it and me doing podcasts about it. So I would never say no, but I don't see it. In Palm Beach, moving more north to Palm Beach, I see Conroe as the only standout there. Conroe is by Chef Jacob Bickelhaupt, formerly of 42 Grams, fame, who received 2 stars at the time. If you haven't watched his documentary, you should. That one, which is called 42 Grams, and then 86, which is the last one that followed after that. Interesting history there and worth a watch. Conroe is an incredible counter experience, and I absolutely adore the experience there, and I'm very excited for them. There's Buchan, which will probably be recommended, and Stage, which is a strong bib. Culinary, I haven't been to, and Nicholson Muir, I've heard rumblings about. Don't know. Sorry, I can't help there. I have not dined in, but researching them, I don't see it. Of course, there's Butcher's Club, which is by Jeremy Ford. Again, an upscale steakhouse boasting a lot of similar apps you see at his 1 Michelin star down in South Beach. Does it translate to a star for Palm Beach, though? And again, that whole steakhouse thing, I'm not sure the Michelin Guide is into. I am extremely surprised to not even see a recognition for the Catherine by Chef Tim and Baloo going back to Fort Lauderdale. His menu is a global mashup of his experiences, and some of my favorite courses there are from his time at his namesake restaurant, Baloo, when it was down in Miami. Locally, that brings much flavor to the Fort Lauderdale area, and it's, I think, a definite oversight by the guide, unless, of course, it's added during the next couple of weeks. Like I said, we still have some weeks before the ceremony. To summarize, I think Itamae, Kojin, and Recoveco have the strongest chances at a Michelin star, especially Itamae. There's plenty of room for a couple of shockers from Michelin. Would it be a Michelin guide without some controversy? So Omo for a 2-star in Orlando, Moss for a 1-star in Fort Lauderdale, Conroe as a 1-star in Palm Beach. Green stars, would love to see Ford's Farm recognized and Rancho Patel recognized. The ceremony will take place in Orlando on April 17th. I don't know if they will do a live video on YouTube like they did last year, but you can sign up for alerts on their channel and Facebook account. As of this recording, they have not announced it on Facebook yet, though. While we wait for the reveal, let's end with a look at some fundamental Michelin guidelines and facts that many aren't familiar with or choose to overlook. Looking at you, Miami. If you listen to anything closely, this is it. I have written and talked about this before, but in case you missed it, here it is again. In the United States, the Michelin Guide is only published in California, New York City and Westchester County, Chicago, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and Washington, D.C. Only restaurants in these areas can authentically claim to have a starred restaurant. The Michelin Guide just announced a new South category named the American South. It will bunch together the existing Atlanta Guide, and then it will add Mississippi, Tennessee, North South Carolina, Louisiana, and Alabama. Restaurants may receive 0 to 3 stars for the quality of their food based on 5 criteria. I talked about this in the beginning. Quality of the ingredients used, mastery of flavor, cooking techniques, the personality of the chef and his cuisine, value for money, and consistency between visits. Restaurant inspectors do not look at the interior decor, table setting, or service quality when awarding stars. These are instead indicated by the number of covers it receives, represented by the fork and spoon symbol. The cover symbol is for comfort and quality, and it ranges from quite comfortable to luxury in the traditional style. That said, the online version of the guide doesn't list the covers. I'm not sure why not. There are guides in Europe that are still printed, and those do have the covers. There's no such thing as a Michelin-starred chef. There is no such thing as a Michelin-starred chef. Got it? Having worked in a Michelin-starred restaurant or even owning a string of 3-starred establishments doesn't make one a Michelin-starred chef, because the term doesn't technically exist. The Michelin Guide awards stars to restaurants based on the quality of the food they serve and not to individuals. Meals are often the collective effort of an entire team and not one man or woman alone. Chefs can't take off with the stars, nor do the stars transfer to another restaurant owned by the same chef. So if a chef who runs a Michelin-starred restaurant in Spain opens a restaurant in Italy, it does not automatically transfer or make it a Michelin-starred restaurant. Chefs can't technically return a star. They can disagree, tantrum, and announce to the world that they're returning a star. But if the Michelin Guide wants you in it, they keep you in it. It's fully up to them not to give you a star the following year. It's not up to the chef. End of story. The Michelin Guide isn't only about fine dining, as established and fancy restaurants. Globally, stars have been awarded to a wide spectrum of restaurants. You made it this far, congratulations. You truly are Miami and Michelin obsessed like me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please take a second to rate the podcast on Apple or Spotify if that's where you listen. It helps local podcasts like mine break through the almighty algorithm. Okay, that's it for today. Enjoy this series of Michelin podcast episodes and blog articles from my passionate Miami palate, the Wet Palate. I will be back with a follow-up episode once the results are in. Until then, ciao.